Hi, and welcome back to the Macajohn's channel, where I, John, will be giving you my macaron recipes and showing you my tips, tricks, and general know-how in terms of how to make them. This week I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite macarons that I've made. It is a blend of molecular gastronomy and macaron making in order to make macarons that have a popping sphere center when you bite into them. It's really exciting. The flavor is going to be carrot and tangerine, which is inspired by a molecular gastronomy dish that I made. And without further ado, let's get started. So to start off, I'm going to begin by going over the reaction at work for the popping sphere centers. Generally, in molecular gastronomy, there are two primary ways to make spheres or caviar out of most liquids you'd like: direct spherification and reverse spherification. Both take advantage of the reaction that occurs when sodium alginate comes in contact with calcium ions and ends up in the creation of a gel or membrane where they come into contact with each other. Direct spherification is typically for creating small spheres and involves dropping liquid mixed with sodium alginate directly into a calcium-infused bath. Reverse spherification is a more powerful technique that allows you to create larger spheres with a wider range of liquids than direct spherification. It involves freezing your sodium alginate liquid using a silicone mold first before submerging them in a calcium bath. I'll be showing you how I go about reverse spherification. For most of my molecular gastronomy ingredients, I typically go to Modernist Pantry. They have a bunch of different products available, so I'm typically able to get everything that I need in one go. Now, the day before you make your macarons, you're going to want to have around 200 grams of tangerine juice, 4 grams of calcium lactate, and then a silicone mold for the spheres on the smaller side of things. You're going to want to add your calcium lactate to your tangerine juice and whisk them together to incorporate them well. Then you're going to want to carefully pour your juice mixture into your silicone mold and put it in the freezer overnight. For these macarons, I decided to go with a deep carrot orange color. I'm showing my finished product, but if you'd like to see how I make my macarons, check out my video where I go over the process for a basic macaron shell. For the filling other than the spheres, I decided to make a carrot Swiss meringue buttercream. You're going to want to start with 100 grams egg whites, 100 grams granulated sugar, and 2 sticks of unsalted butter. Then for the flavoring, the buttercream, I used carrot juice, but you can try and use carrot baking extracts or carrot powder instead if you'd like. To start, you're going to want to put your egg whites and granulated sugar in a medium bowl and give them a little mix. Then you're going to want to set up a double boiler where we're basically just going to be whisking this mixture over a saucepan filled with boiling water. Once your water is close to boiling and you can see steam coming off of it is when I like to put the egg whites over it as well. Then whisk your egg white and sugar for about 3 minutes until the sugar is completely dissolved and the mixture is warm. Transfer this mixture directly into your KitchenAid and start whisking on medium-high speed, around 8 on a KitchenAid, until you reach stiff peaks. With stiff peaks, you're going to want to start adding in your room temperature butter, 1 tablespoon at a time. The mixture will likely start to look bumpy and curdled, but keep whisking and it should eventually come together. This can take around 20 to 30 minutes, so a lot of the time I just like to watch a show and keep an eye on the buttercream while it whisks. Once the base buttercream has come together, you're going to want to try to slowly add 1 tablespoon of carrot juice at a time into the buttercream while it's whipping on high until it's incorporated well. Keep doing this until the buttercream has the flavor or color that you'd like it to have. Now we're going to focus on the design of the macaron shells. For the pattern, I designed and 3D printed out a carrot with one of the aromatic molecules found in many citrus fruits. If you don't have a 3D printer, not a big worry. I just used to cut out and design my own stencils from plastic binder dividers before I had my printer. For these ones, I'm mixing purple food brush air coloring with some yummy berry sterling pearl dust from the sugar art to have a nice holographic effect on the pattern. The airbrushing process is pretty straightforward. Just place your stencil on a macaron shell and try and get an even coat on the shell without oversaturating it. I usually have to wipe down my stencil every couple shells or so, or some of the coloring ends up blotting on the stencil and the macaron shells. For these macarons, it's critical to spread an even layer of buttercream on the inner side of the shells to help waterproof them from the wet spheres we'll be placing in them. Skipping this step can lead to your shells being deteriorated more quickly from the liquid oversaturating them. With that done, you're going to want to pipe a ring around one of the macaron shells in every macaron pair to make a nice pocket for the spheres to rest in. You're going to want to make sure this is a closed loop, and that it's also helpful to smooth out the bottom edge of the ring on the inner side of the macaron shell. Now we're going to create the tangerine spheres. We're going to start by preparing the sodium alginate bath from 500 grams of distilled water and 2.5 grams of sodium alginate. Combine these two ingredients together in a large bowl using an immersion blender or a whisk, and then wait 30 minutes to a couple hours or until the mixture becomes clear. My setup for making the spheres is the following: the sodium alginate bath, a distilled water bath, and then a container filled with tangerine juice that the spheres will eventually rest and be stored in. To make the spheres, take one of your frozen hemispheres from the mold and drop it directly into the sodium alginate bath. Using a slotted spoon, keep the sphere moving in the bath for around 2.5 to 3 minutes, and then transfer it into the distilled water bath and then the tangerine juice container. If your bath container is large enough, you can do multiple spheres at a time. Just be careful to not let them touch or they can fuse together or break. Do this for all the spheres in your mold and you'll end up with these beautiful jiggly pockets of tangerine juice. Then the final step is going to be placing your spheres into the buttercream pockets we made earlier and sandwiching the macarons together. Sometimes the spheres are a little too tall, so you'll have to add another ring of buttercream on top of the previous ring to make it fit. With that, the popping macarons are finished. Fair warning is that these macarons can be a bit messy, so sometimes it's best to just stuff it all in your mouth at once to eat it. I think the carrot buttercream still needs a little more refining, as I wasn't quite able to hit the amount of earthy, carroty punch I was hoping to instill in it. Keep in mind that these also have less longevity than traditional macarons when stored, as eventually the shells will be saturated by the liquid centers. I hope this gave a little more insight into my process for these popping macarons. It's something I really haven't seen anyone else do, so give them a try and let me know how you like them. As always, thanks for watching, and let me know if there's anything I can clear up or give input on, and if you make them and post about it on Instagram or whatever, definitely tag me in your picture at Macajohns. If you like this content, feel free to like or subscribe as always. Thanks.